The House will come back to order. Representative Judah.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for a call of the House.
Call of the House has been requested. Can I see a show of hands? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We got it. The motion is properly sustained. Will the sergeants please close and lock the doors? Mr. Schiebel, turn on the chimes. Members, push your buttons to indicate your presence. In a few moments, Mr. Schiebel will begin calling names for those who are absent. And will the sergeants locate those members who are missing?
Representatives Byrd, Bockenfeld, Basenecker, Bradfield, Bradley, Brown, Catlin, DeGraff, Degree Kennedy, Epps, Evans, Frizzell. Hi, guys. Where was I? Froelich, Garcia, Holtorf, Luck, Lynch, Mabry, Ortiz,
Here.
Puglisi, Sharbini, Soper, Story, Titone, Valdez, Velasco, Weinberg, Wilson, Winter, Woodrow,
Epps and I think Lorena. I saw them with stuff.
Representative Byrd, Bockenfeld, Basenecker, Bradfield, Brown, Evans, Frizzell, Froelich, Holtorf, Luck, Lynch, Mabry, Puglisi, Sharbini, Soper, Story, Titone, Valdez, Velasco, Weinberg, and and Woodrow.
Representative Judah.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the call be raised.
It has been moved that the call be raised. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it. The call is raised. We have some business to tend to. Reports of committees of reference, Mr. Schiebel.
Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends following: House Bill 1311, Senate Bills 92 is amended, 280 is amended, 296, 302 is amended, and 303 is amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation.
Conference committee report.
First report of First Conference Committee on House Bill 1105. This report amends the re-revised bill. To the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House
The
of Representatives.
conference committee report will be printed in the journal. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to proceed out of order with Senate Bill 16 to the Conference Committee report. Yeah, I do.
Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 16.
Senate Bill 16 by Senator Hansen, also Representatives McCormick and Sirota, concerning measures to promote reductions in greenhouse gas emissions in Colorado and in connection therewith, making an appropriation.
Representative McCormick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the Conference Committee on Senate Bill 16 be granted permission to go beyond the scope of the differences between the House and the Senate.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, third time pays for all. I'm asking for this again. So that we can get the part of the small engine discount tax credit that will work for the consumer and the retailer. We have an agreement ready to go. I just need your permission to do that. Please vote yes.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is for the Conference Committee on Senate Bill 16 be granted permission to go beyond the scope of differences between the House and the Senate. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Bottoms, Bradfield, Catlin, Frizzell, Froelich is excused. Garcia, Representative Story, Titone is excused. Velasco, Story and Titone are excused. Please close the machine. With 45 ayes, 17 no, and 3 excused, permission to go beyond the scope is granted. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to proceed out of order for the consideration of Conference Committee reports.
Seeing no objection, we will proceed out of order for consideration of Conference Committee reports. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 155.
Senate Bill 155 by Senator Zenzinger, also Representatives Wilford and Young, concerning the continuation of the regulation of nursing home administrators and in connection therewith, implementing the recommendations in the 2022 Sunset Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies.
I'll move. Okay. Representative Young.
I move the Conference Committee report of Senate Bill 155.
Please proceed. Representative Wilford.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Members, I know that we voted almost unanimously on Senate Bill 155, and there were two key components that were included in the House amendments. One included background checks for nursing home administrators, and the second one included 4 hours of dementia training. When we sent this bill back over to the Senate, there was some disagreement about the need for dementia training, and so we met as a conference committee, stripped that piece of the amendment, and will be moving forward with adopting background checks for nursing home administrators and hope to look at further legislation next session. And with that, I move that we adopt the conference committee report. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of the Conference Committee report on Senate Bill 155. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Basenecker. Please close the machine. With 63 ayes, 0 no, 2 excused, the committee report is adopted. Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move for the repassage of Senate Bill 155 as amended by Conference Committee report.
The question is the repassage of Senate Bill 155 as amended by the Conference Committee report. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Basenecker. Please close the machine. With 63 aye, 0 no, and 2 excused, Senate Bill 155 as amended is repassed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Please read the title to Senate Bill 60.
Senate Bill 60 by Senators Rodriguez and Baisley, also Representatives Doherty and Lindsay, concerning consumer protections and event ticket sales.
Representative Lindsay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House adopt the first report of the first Conference Committee on Senate Bill 60.
Please proceed. Representative Doherty.
Thank you. And we kept many of the clarifying amendments reseller stakeholders requested in the House, but we strengthened the all-in pricing language. We inserted a reasonable person knowledge standard requested by the AG for persons that set up deceptive URLs, and we removed amendments opposed by the sponsors and the proponent coalition relating to requiring venues to disclose and update their inventory hourly, and a few other technical changes. We ask for an aye vote.
Representative Frizzell.
Good evening, Madam Speaker.
Good
Members, Members, I would like to share a letter that was written to you from various stakeholders associated with this particular bill. Dear Colorado lawmaker, we, the undersigned National Consumer Protection and Live Event Fan Advocates, launched the Ticket Buyer Bill of Rights. There is a website, www.ticketbuyerBillofrights.org, a framework for ticketing legislation that can improve the live events ticketing market that serves millions of fans each year. We are writing with regard to Senate Bill 2360, Consumer Protection in Event Ticket Sales. While we once supported this bill, we now urge you to vote no, because the conference committee has stripped vital consumer protections from the bill, such as holdback disclosures and bots reporting, two important components of the Ticket Buyer Bill of Rights. We oppose the introduced version of the bill because of a number of provisions intended to concentrate power in the industry and put consumers at a disadvantage. However, when the House Business Affairs and Labor Committee amended it through Amendment L033, the bill became consumer-friendly. Now the Conference Committee has removed that amendment and two of the significant consumer protections that it once had, ticket holdback disclosures and mandatory bots reporting. Amendment L033 required ticket sellers to report illegal bot activity and requires ticket sellers to disclose how many tickets they are holding back for any event. These consumer protections align with our Ticket Buyer Bill of Rights. We supported these provisions, which required sellers to reveal the number of tickets they would otherwise secretly hold back from the public on sale of tickets. This added transparency will end a deceptive trade practice and will provide more information to consumers, so they are better informed when shopping for tickets. To ease compliance on small local venues in Colorado, we even supported a compromise to exempt venues under 2,000 seats from having to disclose ticket holdbacks. Despite our attempts to engage at every step of the process and make Senate Bill 2360 consumer-friendly, the Conference Committee has ignored the kinds of policies that would actually protect consumers. What remains in the bill are provisions pushed by Ticketmaster, Live Nation, who are aiming to improve their position in the secondary market at the expense of consumers and deflect from national scrutiny. We urge you to vote no. Sincerely, John Brault, Vice President, Public Policy, Telecommunications and Fraud, National Consumers League. Aaron Witt, Director of Consumer Protection, Consumer Federation of America. Greg Geis, Director of Government Affairs, Public Knowledge. Brian Hess, Executive Director, Sports Fans Coalition. Chris Vanderhoof, President, Fan Freedom, and Gary Adler, Executive Director, Protect Ticket Rights. Thank you very much for your attention this evening.
Representative Lindstedt.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I ran the amendment in the Business Committee to support holdback provisions. I think that holdback disclosure is a really important piece of consumer protection that the Conference Committee removed. Another piece that they removed is the bot reporting. If we're so concerned about bots, they should have to report those bots. I think it's if these two pieces of the work that the House did are removed from this bill, it very quickly moves from a consumer protection bill to a bill that helps one primary ticket seller. So I urge the House to reject the Conference Committee report, and if accepted, reject the bill, because I don't think it will protect consumers any longer. The work we did here in this House made this bill a consumer protection bill. We need to make sure that holdbacks are disclosed and that bots are reported. So I urge a no vote on this Conference Committee report. Thank you very much.
Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have a great deal of concern And the colleague that spoke before me, I thought ran a very good amendment. So I'm concerned that that amendment has come off. But my big concern has to do with bot activity, and that's B-O-T, not B-O-U-G-H-T. Bot activity and artificial intelligence. Now, I know what you're saying. Where is Holtorf going on this one? The advancement of artificial intelligence is exponentially increasing. In fact, it is increasing so fast that now it is outpacing human activity and human mental capacity. With the use of algorithms, with the use of artificial intelligence, and with the use of bot activity, any person that's inside that digital space will be able to manipulate and control any market in near real time. So I'm concerned, and the bill sponsor said she's going to explain some things about why I should not be concerned, which I appreciate and really want to hear. I have significant reservations with the removal of the amendments that were, in fact, to help consumers. When you buy a ticket, let's say I like Kenny Chesney, and I do, and I want to buy a ticket at Cheyenne Frontier Days. When I buy that ticket, I want to know that I've got a ticket, and I've bought it from Cheyenne Frontier Days. Unfortunately, you're right. But the point is, and I want to know I got a ticket in hand from the vendor, and I don't want to have somebody or something manipulating the market behind me or trying to create a false sentiment, manipulating the market of undersupply and overdemand. So now my $60 ticket, because I like Kenny Chesney so much, is going to be a $360 ticket. You go and buy your ticket, but then you see a ticket face value and it's a different amount than you paid. And you're like, what's this? Now I know that outlets and, the stock show. We've talked about the stock show, and I support the stock show. We've all supported the stock show in this chamber by appropriating money to the stock show when they were in trouble. But I want to know that the stock show is going to let tickets, that those are going to be at face value, and you're going to have a seat, and someone else isn't trying to create and manipulate the market. I don't think it's fair. So I do have my consumer protection issues in this regard. Now, I'm not smart enough to get into all the details. I know that there are promoters, and there are brokers, and there's ticket outlets, and all these things. I don't want to take away from those. If they buy a set of tickets, and I believe in transparency, if a promoter or a vendor or some other ticket outlet is going to buy a block of tickets, I think everybody should know. If you got a 20,000 seat venue, then you should be able to see. Just like when I want to go to the Broncos and I'm looking for a seat and I buy a ticket and I click and I see that price, I want to know that I got a seat and the price is a fair price. And it's not jacked up or manipulated. Because what do we call that? And I'm a big Bronco fan, and I've gone down here. I drive into the big town. And I try to get a ticket, and there's scalpers out in front, and they're peddling these tickets. And you're paying 2 or 3 times the money to get in. You're like, son of a gun. Couldn't get a seat from the people I used to get seats from. Now I got to come and get scalped. Well?
Representative Holtorf.
Yes, ma'am.
Please.
You don't want me to talk about scalping. I'm sorry. If it's
Please do not
sensitive,
use
I'll
that
withdraw
term.
that. I'll use a different word. You get cheated. And to the good Representative Lindstedt, I understand consumer protection, and we want to protect that. So I'm going to step back from this now. I've shared my sentiment. I think it's important that we consider what is happening here with the consent and consideration of these conference committee reports. And should we or should we not accept the stripping of these House amendments?
Representative Taggart.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I too was on the Business Committee, and I think the sponsors, or hopefully they remember the fact that I voted yes on this in the Business Committee. And keep in mind, this was a 6-5 vote, as I recall. I voted yes because of the amendment that Representative Lindstedt put forth. And I now feel, with this being stripped out, that I've been deceived because of the fact that this was critical to my vote. And it was important to this bill. And now to say that the Senate doesn't agree with us by way of this conference, that's wrong, because it would have never gotten out of the Business Committee without that is true. It would not have gotten out of the Business Committee without Representative Lindstedt's amendment. This is wrong.
Representative Doherty.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I just wanted to quickly clean up some points. I think what I'd like to go back to is the letter that was read about the so-called consumer groups that folks did get a copy of. And I just want to call out, if you actually look at these groups, these are national-based groups. They're called Protect Ticket Rights on their social media pages. And I'm referencing natb.org. And once you go look further at natb.org, it's actually a ticket brokerage group that's, highlighting itself as some sort of consumer protection group. I also want to talk about the testimony. I think it was really good in Business Committee that we had. The 4 folks opposed to the bill in Business Committee were out of state, representing out-of-state companies. And the testimony that we heard in support of this bill was really great. It was local venues, and I actually have a list, and I wanted to read some of the local venues that are still in support of this bill. We have the National Western Stock Show, Red Rocks Park and Amphitheater, Telluride Jazz Festival, Budweiser Event Center, Fiddler's Green, Fox Theater. These are some really small local venues that really believe in the consumer protections that are in this bill. So I would just urge an aye vote on this. I think none of the underlining provisions of the bill changed when that amendment was added and these so-called consumer groups moved to support. It demonstrates that the base provisions that we had in the underlying bill are not onerous and are common sense and consumer friendly. Thank you.
Representative Lindsay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to touch on a couple things. Rep. Doherty did a great job talking about these consumer protection groups. Some of them are actually funded by the resellers, so it's not a objective consumer protection group. So let's mark that off right there. And as she mentioned, Colorado venues like the bill as it stands, as it came out of the conference committee. And that's including the National Western Stock Show. They like the bill as it is, as it came out of conference committee. Oh, sorry. And also, on these Kenny Chesney tickets that my colleague from Akron wants to get his hands on, we want you to get your hands on these tickets too. And our bill, as it was introduced and as it stands right now, makes sure that when you click on that seat, that you will pay the price that you see, and that you will have the ticket in hand, because we, in our bill, have said speculative ticketing is no longer okay. So I'm very glad that we are addressing your concerns, because our bill, as it was introduced in the House, was a robust consumer protection bill for event ticketing. I wanted to talk just a little bit about what our bill actually does as it stands. You've heard this before. I've talked to many of you. But right now, the bill as it stands, Senate Bill 60, mandates transparent ticket pricing, prohibits the practice of speculative ticketing, which means a reseller puts this ticket up on the internet for sale before these tickets are even on sale by the artists themselves. Then people go there, they buy these tickets at a higher price already, and it's not guaranteed that they will be able to get that ticket, and it's not guaranteed that you will be able to go see your favorite artist when the time of the show comes. Our bill says you can't do that. It bans the practice of deceptive URLs. People make websites to look like venue websites that are at the top of the search when you search on the internet for your favorite show. You go there, you buy a ticket, it looks like the venue you're expecting to find, but it's not. Our bill says you can't do that. It also modernizes language around nefarious bot activity. We all agree, bots are not awesome. As far as the reporting piece, even in the amendment we were speaking of, even the Attorney General said that reporting requirement that was in that amendment, what did that actually mean? It didn't say how the reporting should go, so the AG had no direction on what that would even look like, and bots happen a gazillion times a second. It is a burdensome feature of that amendment that while we all agree, bots, not awesome, it's hard to actually report them, and the amendment didn't even specify any way to do that. Also, our bill empowers venues and allows them to revoke tickets if they notice in the microseconds that bots are starting to buy them, that they can pull those back from the bots, not from the people once they have bought the tickets. So we make that so that the venues are able to do that. This also makes it so that if you buy tickets, or if somebody buys tickets for ADA seating at a concert venue, they cannot sell it to people who don't need those seats. These are strong consumer protections. This is how this bill came out of the Senate and into the House. We urge an aye vote. It's a great bill. Please vote yes. Thank you.
The question before us is the adoption of the Conference Committee report to Senate Bill 60. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representatives Bachenfeld, English, Herod. Please close the machine. With 45 aye, 20 no, and 0 excused, the committee report is adopted. Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move for the repassage of Senate Bill 60 as amended by Conference Committee report.
The motion before us is the repassage of Senate Bill 60 as amended. Mr. Schiebel, Representative Weinberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just short and sweet. My fellow colleague from Broomfield offered a very good amendment to this bill. And if that amendment had to have stayed on, I would have stood in support. It was well discussed, it was well put forth, and I think by the committee pushing out that amendment specifically, this bill is not as good as it would have been. So I rise in opposition and I ask you to do the same.
Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Holtorf. There we go. Please close the machine. With 46 aye, 19 no, 0 excused, Senate Bill 60 as amended is repassed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that House Bill 1311 be made special orders at 6:59 p.m.
Seeing no objection, House Bill 1311 will be made special orders at 6:59 p.m. Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, pursuant to House Rule 14, I move that the time for debate on House Bill 1311 be limited to 1 hour during special orders.
Members, the motion before us is pursuant to House Rule 14, debate on House Bill 1311 be limited to 1 hour during special orders. This is a non-debatable motion pursuant to House Rule 15E and requires a simple majority vote. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 40 aye, 25 no, and 0 excused, the motion to limit debate for House Bill 1311 to 1 hour is adopted. Representative Froelich. Members, you've heard the motion. Seeing no objection, the House will now resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of special orders. Representative Froelich will take the chair.
With your unanimous consent, The bill will be read by title unless there is a request for reading the bill at length. Committee reports are printed and in your bill folders. Floor amendments will be shown on the screen and on your iPads. Bills will be laid over upon motion of the majority leader. The coat rule is relaxed. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to House Bill 1311.
House Bill 1311 by Representatives Degree, Kennedy, and Weissman, also Senators Hansen and Hendrickson, concerning the creation of an identical refund payment of excess state revenues from all sources as a mechanism to refund a portion of the excess state revenues for the 2022-23 state fiscal year only.
Representative Degree, Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1311.
To the bill.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you, members. Representative Weissman and I are excited to bring House Bill 1311 to you today. This is a bill that is moving forward together with Senate Bill 303, which is the big property tax bill that was just in appropriations today. One of the things that we knew when we started working on 303 was that if we were going to be using part of the Tabor surplus in order to fund some of the local government backfill for the property tax reductions, then we were going to have to grapple with the question of whose Tabor refunds were impacted most. And so this concept has been on the table for some time about how do we make sure that we are giving Tabor refunds to the people who need it the most, such that the reductions are coming from those whose incomes are at a level such that they don't need. Really? You can't hear me? That's never been said before. I'm terribly sorry. I'll pick it up. And so what this bill does is, in connection with Senate Bill 303, it recalibrates the Tabor refund mechanisms. It doesn't change the amount of the Tabor refund mechanisms, but it does, instead of using the 6-tier sales tax mechanism that is currently in law after we've paid out the reimbursements to local governments for the senior homestead exemption and other property tax backfill provisions, what this does is says every taxpayer in Colorado gets the same dollar amount Tabor refund, and that's that. What this will in effect do compared to the status quo is it will increase the Tabor refund for people whose incomes are below $50,000 by about $200, or about $400 for couples. And for folks that are in the next bracket up from $50,000 to $100,000 a year, they'll get an extra $50 or $100 for couples. For the next bracket up, it's pretty close to a wash. And then for the income levels that are higher than that, they'll still get a Tabor refund, but it will not be quite as high as they would have gotten under the previous mechanism. So we believe that this is a great way that, in conjunction with the property tax reduction measure, that we can make sure that Coloradans who need help the most are getting a little extra money out of their Tabor refund to help them pay the bills in this tough time.
Representative Weissman.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Just to add a little bit to that, obviously we all know what Tabor is. My co-prime sponsor, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem, mentioned some key provisions from Tabor itself. Tabor Section 1 allows us, the legislature, to specify in statute any reasonable method for providing the refunds. A method like this one has actually been used before, last year, in fact. We believe it was then and is now a reasonable method. I, in fact, believe it is more reasonable, more fair, more equitable, more comprehensible to the voters than what we have in place now, which is the so-called 6-tier mechanism. You go back to the history of Tabor to, the 90s, we've had a pretty complicated profusion of different mechanisms in law. Some of them were written in such a weird way that they never even happened. Anyway, we are where we are now, which is, and it's important to make clear what we're not changing here, and really what a narrow but important question is set forth in 1311. Right now, current Tabor rebate law is that the first thing that happens when there's rebate obligation is we pay back counties for the senior homestead exemption. We all know what that is. We have constituents who talk to us about it. Then the second thing that happens is backfill, pursuant to legislation we did last year, bipartisan property tax related legislation to transfer some funds to counties due to property tax law changes in that legislation, which brings us to the last position, which is where numerically most of the dollars go. If you look at the fiscal note, you'll see that we're talking about $2.4 billion. And what happens now when that goes through the so-called 6-tier mechanism, which is 25 years old, it helps folks who are rather higher income somewhat more. Everybody gets something, but it is skewed upward. We believe that in the context of the ongoing property tax conversation, ongoing conversations about inflation and cost of living and how hard things have been in COVID, that it makes sense to integrate into the ongoing property tax conversation this proposal to just do the math, figure out the rebate that we owe, divide by taxpayers. Again, if you file singly, that's 1 times the amount that will be calculated pursuant to law. If you file jointly, you get twice. 2 people, 2 rebates, only fair. Want to clarify just one last thing that may be said out there. This is some kind of attack on Tabor. Respectfully, it is not. This is a policy choice which we are inviting everyone here to consider. Obviously, we're urging a yes vote. The amount of the Tabor rebate is not changed in this bill. I hope members are hearing this. The amount of the Tabor rebate is not changed in this bill. The Tabor rebate is calculated pursuant to law. How well is the economy doing? Between now and the end of the fiscal year and the reckoning of the math and reconciling of accounts, if the economy does even more strongly, the rebate will go up, all other things equal, because we'll grow above the Tabor cap. If things cool down, it might go down. Policies that we pass here might have something to do with it. The calculation of how much is owed back to taxpayers under Tabor is not changed by this bill. Only the method, again, the reasonable method that we set forth here will be changed for reasons of simplicity and equity and integrating this into the property tax conversation that is ongoing. We are asking for your yes vote.
Thank you very much. Representative Mabry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I rise in strong support of this legislation. When we did this last year, this provided direct relief to people who are struggling to pay their bills, pay their water bills, pay their rent. I represent a safe district, and because of that, during the election, I got to go out in the state and knock doors in many different parts of the state. And when I was knocking doors across the state, this was incredibly popular. It was incredibly popular that people saw their working class and poor people saw their Tabor rebates go up so much. It meant a world of difference. It could mean half a month's rent. It could mean an electric bill, a credit card payment. This is good policy. And when we're talking about tax relief in the broader conversation, right, we need to make sure that the working class and the poor are part of that conversation. And this bill does just that. So vote yes for this bill.
Representative Frizzell.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Good evening to you. Members, I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to have a robust discussion around this particular bill in appropriations just a few hours ago when we first saw it here in the House. And I 100% agree with my colleague from Denver, wherever he is, that the citizens of this state love their Tabor refunds. They love Tabor. They appreciate the fiscal responsibility that that brings to this state. That said, I, in the committee, voiced my very significant concern that this refund is now to be tied to a ballot initiative on property taxes. Tied, as in, if the other initiative doesn't pass, if you don't like it, if you don't agree with that particular methodology for property tax reduction, you don't get your Tabor refund. Well, some could say that your Tabor refund is being held hostage by another ballot initiative or ballot measure. My apologies. So that is my concern, primarily, with this particular bill. I like my fellow citizens of this fabulous state, I love and appreciate my Tabor refund. Hope to use it again this year. Anyway, I would like to move L017 to House Bill 1311 and ask that it be properly displayed.
That has been properly displayed. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is actually a rather complicated amendment from a financial standpoint. So really, but the premise is relatively simple, so we'll keep it simple. One of the provisions, again, I want to remind you that this Tabor refund that's promised in this particular bill, 1311, is tied to Proposition HH, which includes a backfill provision. What this amendment does is it freezes the state revenue cap as a part of the backfill calculation. And in fact, it's freezing the CCAP at a 2019-2020 fiscal year. So the upshot of this is actually really beneficial for education and local government, because rather than having the CCAP calculation, the calculated value change over time, over the 10 years that is put in place by Proposition HH, it actually allows the backfill to increase and the backfill amounts to education and local government backfills increasing as well. Those amounts would be greater over time. So this sounds great. Who doesn't love funding schools in this chamber? We all love funding schools, right? So I would ask for an aye vote on this amendment. Thank you.
Is there any further? Representative Degree Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And as much as I respect where my colleague from Douglas County is coming from, the title of this bill clearly states that we're talking about refund mechanisms for fiscal year 22-23 only, so I would ask the chair for a title ruling.
We will stand in a brief recess, and please stop the clock. The chair rules that the amendment does not fall within the title. Back to order. The chair rules the amendment does not fall within the title. Representative Armagast.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just with the issuance of Rule 14 and how the bill has appeared the way it has, I think just to give us all a better understanding of the bill, I request that the bill be read at length.
That is a proper motion. We will stop the clock, and the bill will be read at length.
First regular session 74th General Assembly State of Colorado introduced. LLS No. 23 to 1036.01 Jed Franklin X 5484 House Bill 23 to 1311. House Committees Senate Committees Appropriations. A bill for an act. 101 concerning the creation of an identical refund payment of 102 excess state revenues from all sources as a mechanism. 103 to refund a portion of the excess state revenues for 10 for the 2022 to 23 state fiscal year only. Bill summary. Note, this summary applies to this bill as introduced and does not reflect any amendments that may be subsequently adopted. If this bill passes third reading in the House of Introduction, a bill summary that applies to the re-engrossed version of this bill will be available at http://leg.colorado.gov. If the state exceeds its fiscal year spending limit, it is required to refund the excess state revenues, TABOR refunds. There are currently 3 refund mechanisms for TABOR refunds that apply for the House sponsorship DeGruy, Kennedy and Weissman. Senate sponsorship Hansen and Hinrichsen. Shading denotes House amendment. Double underlining denotes Senate amendment. Capital letters or bold and italic numbers indicate new material to be added to existing law. Dashes through the words or numbers indicate deletions from existing law. 2022 to 23 state fiscal year. Reimbursement, paid to counties for allocation to local governments that levy property taxes, for the reduction in property taxes resulting from the property tax exemptions for qualifying seniors and veterans with a disability. An additional reimbursement that is paid to counties for allocation to local governmental entities that levy property taxes for the reduction in property taxes resulting from reductions in valuation for assessment, and a sales tax refund for individual taxpayers, the amount of which is either based on 6 tiers of income or, if there is insufficient revenue for the tiered approach, is an identical refund amount. The bill creates a new temporary refund mechanism, which is contingent on the voters approving Proposition HH at the November 7, 2023, statewide election, that replaces the sales tax refund mechanism for the 2022 to 23 state fiscal year. Under this mechanism, each qualified individual is eligible to receive an identical refund payment from the remaining excess state revenues after refunds are made through the county reimbursement mechanisms, remaining excess state revenues. The amount of the refund is equal to the remaining excess state revenues divided by the number of qualified individuals, and it is a refund from all sources of state fiscal year spending. A qualified individual filing a single return is entitled to 1 refund, and 2 qualified individuals filing a joint return are entitled to 2 refunds. The Executive Director of the Department of Revenue is required to administer this refund in the same manner as the identical sales tax refund. 1. Be it enacted by the General Assembly of the State of Colorado. 2. Section 1. In Colorado Revised Statutes, add 39-22-2005 as 3 follows. For 39-22-2005. Refund of excess state revenues from all sources. 5. Definitions, repeal. 1. As used in this section, unless the 6. Context otherwise requires. 7. A. Qualified individual has the same meaning as set 8 forth in section 39-22-2003, 1. 9. B. Remaining excess state revenues means the total 10 amount of the state revenues for the state fiscal year. 2. HB 23-1311. 1. Commencing on July 1, 2022, in excess of the limitation on state 2 fiscal year spending imposed by Section 27A of Article X of 3 the state constitution that the state is required to refund for under Section 27D of Article X of the state constitution. 5. Including any amount specified in Section 24-77-103.8, that 6 exceeds the amounts to be refunded as required by Section 739-3-209 and 39-3-210 for the state fiscal year. 8. 2. Notwithstanding sections 39-22-2002 and 39-22-2003, 9. Any remaining excess state revenues for the state fiscal year 10 commencing on July 1, 2022, are refunded through an identical 11 payment to qualified individuals. The amount of each refund is 12 equal to the amount of the remaining excess state revenues 13 divided by the number of qualified individuals expected to claim 14. A refund pursuant to section 39-22-2003 for the income tax year 15 commencing on January 1, 2023. This is a refund of excess state 16. Revenues from all sources of fiscal year spending. 17. 3. A qualified individual filing a single return is entitled 18 to 1 refund under this section and 2 qualified individuals 19 filing a joint return are entitled to 2 refunds under this 20 section. The Executive Director shall calculate the amount of 21 the refund required by this section and shall administer the 22 refund in the same manner as the refund set forth in section 2339-22-2003. 24. 4. This section is repealed, effective December 31, 2028. 25. Section 2. Effective date, applicability. 1. Except as 26 otherwise provided in subsection 2 of this section, this act takes effect 27 upon passage. 3. HB 23-1311. 1. 2. A. Section 1 of this act takes effect only if, at the November 2, 2023 statewide election, a majority of voters approve the ballot issue 3 submitted for their approval or rejection pursuant to section 24-77-202 for CRS, as enacted by Senate Bill 23-303. 5. B. If the voters at the November 2023 statewide election approve 6 the ballot issue described in subsection 2A of this section, then Section 7(1) of this Act takes effect on the later of January 1, 2024, or the date of the 8th official declaration of the vote thereon by the governor. 9. Section 3. Safety Clause. The General Assembly hereby finds, determines, and declares that this act is necessary for the immediate preservation of the public peace, health, or safety. 4. HB 23-1311.
Representative Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I rise today in support of this bill. You know, in my community, Tabor isn't a terribly popular thing, and I know that's not a common thing to come up to the well and say. But in my community, people recognize that Tabor continues to constrain our ability to pay our teachers, to provide our kids with a decent education, pave our roads, provide our citizens with health care. But we have it. And this bill makes the best policy in terms of how we administer those Tabor rebates. The best thing that we can do for working class folks here in Colorado is to put more money in their pockets. It's the best way that we can fight poverty and the best way that we can stimulate our economy. I strongly support the idea that working class folks should get a larger Tabor refund. They are the backbone of our communities, they are the backbone of our businesses, and they make Colorado work. I ask you all to join me in an aye vote on this bill.
Representative Soper. Representative Minority Leader Lynch. Rochambeau. Time is money. Minority Leader Lynch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's an honor to be with you on a Saturday.
Yes, hello. I didn't catch what you said, but.
Members, I can't tell you how excited I am that my brothers across the aisle are excited about Tabor. I'm so glad that they've come around to understanding that the value that Tabor brings to this state. And in that vein, I think there's no reason we should hold back like this bill has us do. And so I would like to move Amendment L019 to House Bill 1311. And ask that it be displayed.
That has been properly moved and displayed. Please proceed, Minority Leader Lynch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For those of you that were paying attention over the last few minutes as we got to actually read the entirety of this bill, which didn't take very long, I'm sorry about that, to let you down. But what I am proposing, if we're going to do this, I think we should do it. Let's go on ahead and not hold the citizens of the state hostage with having to vote for something. It's their money. Tabor is, at the end of the day, it's not our money, it's the people's money. I'm not particularly excited about the scale of which we've decided to refund this. I'm not a huge equity fan. But if we're going to do this, I think we should go on ahead and do it. So just to walk you through what we're doing here, we're just going to remove Section 2. Which makes this not effective unless so the citizens have to do something to get their own money back. That's not fair. I think what we need to do is just let the citizens get that money back right away. I mean, I don't know why we would hold back folks' money when we could just go on ahead. If we're going to do this, let's just do it. Let's not hold the citizens hostage, if you will, by saying if you vote properly for Proposition HH, aka Senate Bill 303, that you can then receive your Tabor money back. So I think this is a very, this adds equity to the equity, and that is because we're going to allow people to we can do it here today. We can make sure that those people can get their money back. I'm not sure why we wouldn't go for that. Like I said, don't particularly agree with the scale on it, but if we're going to do this, I think we should not hold back that money any longer, and let's go on ahead and pass this amendment, which just takes out Section 2, once again, that puts a contingency on people getting their money back. This takes that away and allows the people today for us to say you can have that money back. I would like to encourage a yes vote for those citizens that would like to get their money back.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, or excuse me, Madam Chair. I rise in support of this amendment also. There is no reason why we should have to wait for, Proposition HH coming up. Why don't we just put this in effect now? It's got a safety clause already. Let's get things going.
Representative Bottoms.
I also urge an aye vote on this amendment. The sponsors have put a bill together that needs to happen now, right now. And so let's do it now. This is me getting behind the sponsors 100% that we should do this right now. So I urge an aye vote.
Representative Weissman.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I just want to clarify one really important point because I feel like I've now heard it a few times. The bill does not change the fact that there's going to be Tabor rebate under the current economic forecast, doesn't change the amount. We're talking about the method. It makes sense for us to integrate this method with the broader question of property tax. I've heard from a couple representatives the idea that people don't get their Tabor rebate in any way if we don't do this. That's not correct. People might be listening out here. We got to have an accurate record of what's going on. People get Tabor rebate. We're proposing something to be considered in connection with a broader question by the voters. If the voters say yes, one thing happens. If the voters say no, a different thing happens. But people get Tabor rebate one way or the other. It's just really important to be clear on that for the record.
Representative Degree Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to add, as I mentioned at the outset as well, that this concept of flattening the Tabor refunds was developed in tandem with the property tax bill that we will be debating tomorrow. The concept has been from the beginning that if we are going to be using part of the Tabor surplus for the purpose of helping county, school district, fire district governments stay whole amid the property taxes, that we had to grapple with the question of for whom are the refunds reduced. In this particular case, we believed it was most appropriate to make sure those with the lowest incomes in Colorado continued to get a refund, in fact, get a larger refund than they would get under current law, whereas it would be the folks with higher incomes who end up essentially paying for the reimbursements to the county governments for the property taxes that they in fact benefit from. So please vote no on this amendment.
Representative DeGraff.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just the overall basis, what we're talking about is we're going to ask 64% of the people if they would like some of the Tabor refund of 36% of the people. So that will be, so if you take the bottom two categories that were discussed, that's about 64% of the people, and asking them to vote on whether they would like to take take Tabor refund from the other 36% of the people. I recommend an aye vote on this amendment.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment 19? Seeing none, the question before us is Amendment 19. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. The noes have it. The amendment fails. Representative Soper, mon frère, s'il vous plaît.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And by the way, you're my favorite chair. Yeah, thank you.
Shameless pandering.
So members, I have to come down here and really raise a process objection to House Bill 1311.
We heard this in appropriations, where appropriations was the committee of reference to hear this particular bill. And I raised it also at the time in committee just a couple of hours ago, but I do want to raise it here in the committee of the whole to the entire body. Because this particular bill was distributed on our desks minutes before going to the committee of reference. And luckily it was a short bill to be able to at least skim through. But we had a witness who came to us and said, I am not able to pull up this bill on the General Assembly's website. And we had a brief delay until it showed up on the website, just a few minutes. So appreciate the chair's latitude for that. But that is not appropriate policy making. As legislators or as the general public, we need to be able to see bills with ample time to be able to read the bills, to be able to understand what we're reading. The public needs the ability to read bills and also be able to formulate an opinion one way or another if they choose to engage. Because in our system of government, we have allowed the public to be able to come in and testify in committee. We've allowed the public to come and give us their opinions on policy before us. And when we cut off the public, and when we create a chilling effect on legislators, that undermines our entire democracy. I want to be very clear here. What we saw here today should never, ever happen again. We shouldn't be seeing a bill that's not on the state's website and yet be listening to it in the first committee of reference. We shouldn't be getting the bill handed to us while we're walking off to committee. As a matter of fact, the fiscal note was so warm off the printing press that by the time they handed it to me as I'm sitting down in the committee, I could still feel the heat from the printer. I'm asking for ample time to be able to read. If we were any other institution in government, a legislator raising these same complaints, particularly one who might be disabled, such as with dyslexia or any other learning disability, would be granted a time accommodation to be able to read the legislation before being required to vote on it. They would be allowed to have that time accommodation to see what's going on. We've seen it through all the other bills throughout this session except this one. And we should have been able to grant legislators who may not be as fast to readers as others the time to be able to read. And I do object to what happened here today.
Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I hardly ever bring my computer up, but I've got it now. I, too, agree with my colleague from Delta. Colorado deserves better. The leaders of Colorado deserve to treat Colorado citizens and stakeholders better. Bills should be introduced in a timely manner to allow everybody to participate in the legislative process. This has not been done today by the bill sponsors or those that have supported them. A bill should go to a committee of reference, and it should be announced in a time that Colorado citizens can come to their state capital, the People's House, and talk with those committee members so we can fully discuss a bill. Well, on a Saturday after Cinco de Mayo, nobody's hardly here to do that. That is not right, and it's not, I believe, unintentional. Colorado deserves better. Additionally, there should be a few days, if this is so important, we should have done this weeks, if not months ago. But no, we wait till the last 3 days of session. Here we are, Colorado, on a weekend where nobody's paying attention except those that are really invested in this business. And the people that need to come to the people's house to talk to us representatives about the people's business have not been allowed that full opportunity to have their voices heard. Colorado deserves better. This is a leadership question. Now, here we are, the same day that it drops into a committee. We're now on seconds, Colorado. And for all the people in Colorado that had their supper and are doing other things, they're not able to see this. But they should. The 6 million citizens of Colorado and those stakeholders and the stakeholder organizations that represent them should have had ample time to petition and discuss and file objection or support with their state legislators measured in days, not hours or minutes. Colorado deserves better. We're not done, Colorado, because we will do this in 1 hour with the Rule 14. I want the media to hear this. I want the rest of Colorado to hear this. So now debate is limited of all of us colleagues to 1 hour on a complex bill that will change Colorado taxation and Tabor for the next 10 years. I believe. Or maybe longer. Through 2032. I guess that's 8 years. Or 9. Until we change it again. But Colorado deserves better. Now, tomorrow on Sunday, well, many people in my district are going to church and not thinking about what's happening here. If they're 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, paying attention to those things that are important, but then take the weekend off to enjoy time with their family and friends and worship and do those other things we do on the weekend, they won't see all this happening on thirds when we go, boom, let's pass this baby. We'll probably Rule 16 on thirds and limit the voice of my caucus and the people we all represent. Colorado deserves better. Colorado deserves legislation, and I'm talking to you, sir. I'm looking right at you. Colorado deserves better. There should be time for proper vetting. There should be days instead of hours that this complex legislation is analyzed. But Colorado, this isn't by accident. Because we always want to take the slowest amount of time on things early in the session, but the fastest amount of time at the end of section when these controversial issues cause great exposure to those in policy places of the highest level in Colorado, because they don't want Colorado to be heard. They don't want the stakeholder process to be fully vetted, and they don't want for you who need to speak out to come to this state capitol measured in days and not hours
Representative,
to have your voice heard.
let's get back to the bill.
Colorado deserves better. Now to the bill. To my colleague from Boulder County, you need to pay attention. State population has grown 16%. 16.1 actually in the last 10, 12 years. 12. 13. Student enrollment has grown 4.7%. So we complain about having to backfill this crisis in education. We're not funding student education. Well, hold on to your hats, cowboys. We have raised that funding for education 111.4% in 12 years. And there's not enough money there, is there? I wonder why. This is not the solution. The state taking this shell game that Colorado's going to get, and it's a shell game, is a problem. And I'm calling it out for what it is, and I'm saying Colorado deserves better, and my colleague from Delta, God bless you for your objection. Now, I want to run an amendment here, so I'm going to go to, I believe, Madam Chair, I move L020 to House Bill 1311 and ask that it properly be displayed. Now, you might say, well, this is a pretty benign amendment.
Representative, hold on, please. We're waiting for it to be displayed. And it is. Please proceed.
And I do want this to be referred to the people under a referendum. But I don't want the trickery and the smoke and mirrors and the shell game to go unnoticed in this state. And I want the people of Colorado to pay close attention. Unfortunately, it's the weekend, and they're not being properly represented in this very serious matter. But Colorado deserves better.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Weissman.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Members, the way the bill is written, the voters actually are going to decide, because as we've observed a couple of times now, the intent of 1311 is to integrate this question into what will be called Proposition HH. So the voters get to decide if they want to do what's going on here. If the voters vote no, then this doesn't happen. If the voters vote yes, then it does. So it's really actually already going to the people, and they're going to get the ultimate sign-off on the question about making the change in how Tabor rebates happen. It really is already being referred under what we have in front of the House. Now, if we adopt this amendment, we actually create kind of a hopeless circularity. So I'm asking for a no vote.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you. Just a point of clarification, since we have not been able to get into these bills a whole lot at this point, why would this bill not just incorporated, since it's based on 303, why was it not just incorporated with it?
Representative Degree Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the question to my colleague from El Paso County. It is because there is a single subject rule that applies to the bill that was introduced in Senate Bill 303. There was discussion about whether we could appropriately amend this provision into the bill, but that did not fit under the title of the bill, hence the separate bill.
The question before us is Amendment 20. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Amendment 20. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The noes have it. The amendment fails. Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are many members of my caucus that are very, very disappointed and upset with the legislative process that the state of Colorado and the way they promulgate state policy the last 3 days. Very disappointed in how this is done. And Colorado deserves better. I have another amendment I'm going to run. I'd like to move L018 to House Bill 1311 and ask that it properly be displayed.
The previous one was 20, so what
18. This is 18, ma'am.
18?
I move L018 to House Bill 1311.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Please.
And ask that it properly be displayed.
It is displayed. Please proceed.
Thank you. And it's interesting that we have been told by the bill sponsors that we had a single subject problem in a Senate bill that wasn't done right. And when people at the highest levels of government got to looking at it, they said, oh, Schlitz, we got a problem. We better run another bill so we can fix it. And I used to drink Schlitz when I was a young man. I don't even think they make it anymore. But we're going to fix the Schlitz by running this bill. In the other chamber. And boy, if one doesn't make it and the other one does, we're in trouble. We got a problem. Dang. Well, Colorado, for those of you that are not here paying attention or never got a chance to come and talk about this or even see this bill before this weekend, now you have a chance to petition and cancel the whole thing out. And I encourage every Coloradoan, because you deserve better, to stop this brand of politics. In the last 3 to 4 days of this session, I've watched it for 4 years now, and Colorado deserves better. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Weissman.
Thanks. Thanks, Madam Chair. Hello, microphone. Test 1, 2. All right. Members, we're going to ask for a no vote. Again, the way the bill's already introduced, the voters have the final sign-off. This question being on the ballot in a way is more voter-centric, more voter-oriented, even than a petition clause. Petition clause, you got to go run and get hundreds of thousands of signatures. It's happened twice in our history. The question is already, under the introduced bill, going in front of the voters. Reason for the safety clause is if the voters approve of this, DOR will have to do things a little bit differently. One thing I've learned working on legislation like this over the years, that needs time. We need to provide clear and immediate directive just to the administrative aspect to get ready to make the change if the voters approve it. That's why we need to have a safety clause here. Again, because of the way the bill's written, notwithstanding the safety clause, the voters get the final say whether we do this policy or not. I ask for a no vote on the amendment.
The question before us is Amendment 18. Seeing no further discussion, the question is the passage of Amendment 18. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The noes have it. The amendment fails. Representative Bottoms.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One of our colleagues got up here just a little bit ago and said that he and his district does not like Tabor. Well, that puts him in a very, very small group of people, because Tabor was voted in by the people, and many different votes since then that have been tried to change Tabor have been voted down. As recently as November 2020, voters rejected the efforts to significantly overhaul or repeal Tabor. So it doesn't matter actually what any of us in this room think about Tabor. Tabor was put in by the people, and it is the people's money. As I mentioned to some of the governor's people recently, Tabor doesn't belong to the governor, doesn't belong to any of us, it belongs to the people. I'd like to move Amendment L021 and have it properly displayed. This goes to, I'm sorry.
That has been properly displayed. Please proceed, Representative Bottoms.
So this is dealing directly with the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, rights for the taxpayer. I would like to change the Ledge Act through this to talk about the fact that that the Taxpayer Bill of Rights is voted in by the people and is well liked by the people and actually rules the day about all of this kind of stuff. Letter C, even with Tabor in place, total state appropriations per Coloradoan adjusted for inflation have increased by 57% over the last 20 years, from 3304 to 5196. The Taxpayer Bill of Rights needs to be the focus when we're dealing with the taxpayers' money, which belongs to them. And I'm still a little confused as to if we really want this to happen, why didn't we vote in an amendment that said it could happen immediately? Seems confusing. one side of the bill to the other side of the bill seems confusing. So I urge an aye vote for 021.
The question, Representative Weissman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Look, members, opinions about Tabor vary widely in our state 30 plus years later. Some polling I saw not so long ago, about a year ago, suggests roughly a third of people support Tabor, a third of people do not support Tabor, a third of people maybe have come to the state recently and aren't super familiar with what Tabor is, one way or the other. The reality is that opinions vary. This declaration makes a particular assertion about Tabor that we don't entirely agree with and don't think it reflects the diversity of opinion about this 30-plus-year-old, unique in the country constitutional provision. So we ask for a no vote.
Minority Leader Lynch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've talked so much about Tabor, and I'm not sure that citizens really understand what Tabor is. I mean, we know Baby Doe Tabor, which was part of the gold rush, but I'm afraid that citizens may think we're naming stuff after her. But what people need to understand that Tabor is the taxpayer's Bill of Rights. What this amendment does is just kind of brings that back to the forefront, and especially attached to a bill like this where we are equitably giving people their money back. I think they ought to know where that came from. I am a strong yes on this amendment. This is a good amendment.
Representative Winter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I stand in support of this amendment. And if my colleague that just spoke before the minority leader is correct, the reason that people are questioning Tabor is there's been policies that have put them in place to start thinking that they need help. They need a fix. I believe a long time ago, policies were enacted, put in place to bring us to this point, to bring Tabor to its knees. People are hurting so bad, of course, they're going to try to get help wherever they can. And as we keep enacting bad policy, we are putting people in that position. It's either this or that. What choice do they have? Seriously, what choice do they really have? When you put them in between the rock and the hard place, they're going to take the path of least resistance. But at the end of the day, these people need to know that policies that have been passed have put them in these situations. And they're grasping at straws for help. But unfortunately, the message that is being pushed out of this building and by the media, they don't tell the backstory. They just show the pain and suffering, and this is how we fix it. And nobody is liable for signing on and passing bad legislation. And that's unfortunate. And I won't be part of selling people snake oil. I urge an aye vote on this.
Representative Taggart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Taxpayer Bill of Rights is critical, but so too is the timing of getting that money that belongs to the citizens of this state back to them as soon as possible. We talk about the fact in this room constantly that many of our citizens are suffering. This amendment says as soon as possible. What this bill says, we might know yes or no in November, and we might get around to paying them their money a year later. The last I knew, all of the monies that have been collected under our taxes were through December 31st, 2022. And by tying it to this bill as compared to this amendment, we're going to hold that money for 13 to 14 months. And we're still going to talk about, we're concerned about the pressures that our citizens are under. So which is it? Are we concerned about our citizens? Or do we just want to hold on to their money? We need to pay them back as soon as possible. It's their money, not ours.
Representative Minority Leader, Assistant Minority Leader Puglisi, then Weissman.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative, for yielding the floor to me for a minute. I just wanted to say, I moved to Colorado. I chose to live in Colorado because of the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. I thought any state that allowed their people to vote on tax increases had to be the most free state. And I have, since the moment I stepped into politics, defended it. And along with what the good representative from Mesa County said, when it is politically expedient to get those Taxpayer Bill of Rights refunds out, we're able to do it very quickly. And I just want to remind everybody of that. Thank you.
Representative Weissman.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to clarify. This is actually really important. What we're talking about here, the question decided at the election, is the question how. We're proposing this flat rebate because we think it helps renters, and that's an important part of the property tax conversation. What the bill does not do is change the timing. What the bill does not do is change the timing of when Tabor rebates go out 3 times. The bill does not change the timing of how Tabor rebates happen. This is how it's going to happen. The current fiscal year ends June 30, 2023. Pursuant to law, the state controller, who is housed in DPA, will make the calculation required about what is the Tabor rebate obligation, kind of what was over the Tabor cap, basically, for fiscal 23 that will have ended June 30, 2023. Then the auditor looks at that to make sure it's correct, and that gets put out in a letter, and that's a public document. Comes around to some members in leadership or probably the Joint Budget Committee. It's out there for anybody to see who wants to see it. Then, so this is about September 1st of this year, we know what is the amount of the Tabor rebate obligation that has to be paid that was over the cap for fiscal 2023. The way that Tabor rebate is actually delivered is through the tax returns the next spring. So spring of 24, if you file early, it might be January. If you wait like a lot of us do, it's more like March or April. In connection with doing your tax return, the DR 104 form from the state, there's going to be some lines in there that says, here's your Tabor rebate. And then I'll make up an example, just round numbers. If, most of us pay what we owe through withholding, so hopefully there's not too much of a balance. If you owe $1,000 on your DR 104 after you do all the other math, and there's a line in there that says, hey, you get $500 from Tabor rebate. All right, now you only owe $500 because the rebate subtracts from what you owe. That's the timing. And same thing for fiscal 24. Everything I said, just add a year. But this is how it works. Fiscal year closes June 30. Controller looks at the books and
Rep.
figures out the
Weissman,
amount.
are you on the amendment?
I'm speaking to the question that was
Okay,
put previously.
but we want to be mindful.
Almost done. It really needs to be understood in context with this conversation. We're not changing the timing. The timing is pursuant to existing law. The bill doesn't change that. For that reason, I'm asking for a no vote again on the amendment.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment 21? The question before us is not seeing any discussion. The question before us is Amendment 21. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The noes have it. The amendment fails. Representative Frizzell.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I realize that I spoke on this bill earlier. Telling you it's the tall people that mess me up. I realize I spoke on this bill earlier, but this is important. This is really, colleagues, this is important. We are talking about a fiscal note of $2.41 billion, billion with a B. I don't know about y'all, but I think that is a heck of a lot of money. We are talking about a fiscal note of $2.41 billion. We're looking at sending this bill, this one, to the Senate in less than 24 hours since the time that it landed on our desks. And we're not pushing it through that fast because it's such a good bill, I promise you. I am a card-carrying member of the Appropriations Committee. Proud to be a card-carrying member of the Appropriations Committee. Although today I wasn't so proud, and I'm going to tell you that I'm not kidding. Today I was not proud. I was horrified. I am distressed about how we are circumventing the will of the people. Not just on this bill. Let me relate to you what I saw today. This bill, as previously described, and you may have noticed, and I get it, I know, we're in the last few days. Crazy things happen in this chamber in the last few days. I know. We're allowed to behave really badly, do crazy things, push things through that shouldn't be pushed through, vote on things that shouldn't be voted on because they're not ready for prime time, because we're in such a dadgum hurry. How is that serving the people that elected us if we are passing legislation that isn't well thought out, ready for prime time, or even good policy? Goes back to my parenting mantra I told you about before. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. This definitely falls under that category. This is my chief objection to this bill. I already told you, I love Tabor. I love Tabor refunds. All of my constituents love their Tabor refunds. The good representative from the city and county of Denver talked about how he was walking around the state and people love their Tabor refunds. We love them. We love money, getting money back from the government, because what? It's our money. The government shouldn't be holding on to our money. It's ours. It's ours to spend as we want to. And I will tell you this bill, 1311, puts it on the ballot that we should vote for getting our money back. What? Yes, it does. Oh, that's right. We get our money back if we vote for Proposition HH also. That's right. I forgot that part. It's late. I'm blonde. Okay, I'm not really blonde, but we'll let that pass. That's another conversation. Why should we be asking the citizens to vote on getting their money back? Is that right? Shouldn't they just get it back? That's how I understand it. That right is guaranteed by the Taxpayer Bill of Rights that was enacted in this state in 1992. And why was it enacted? It was enacted to make sure that governments didn't overspend. Their revenues are limited. They're accountable. They're accountable to the citizens of this state, which, by the way, I think is really important. Does anybody else out there think that it's important that we be accountable to the citizens? Amen. The only reason that this bill, 1311, the only reason that this landed on our desk this afternoon is because it's a carrot. Y'all have heard about a carrot. It's used to, you put a carrot in a trap, and if I were the representative from Akron, I might use it to catch myself a rabbit. But I'm not. But this carrot can sure entice the good citizens of this state to vote for Proposition HH just to make sure that they get their money back. Because if they don't vote for Proposition HH, they don't get their money back. I think.
That is inaccurate.
Okay. That was not what we were told in committee earlier, Madam Chair, so perhaps I misunderstood. But my understanding is that Proposition HH, it's important that these two are tied together. They're companion bills. I would appreciate a no vote on this bill in the short time we have left. I appreciate your attention this evening.
Minority Leader Lynch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are about out of time, and so I don't have a lot of time, similar to the way this bill came up. Just so you know, this bill was not in existence this morning. At least if it exists, I don't know. I think it was right across the desk in one of those breaks that we had. But let's be real clear about how this works. We will still get our Tabor money back, but it'll be in a different form unless we vote for HH. Now, we've seen this scheme before. We saw this around Christmas time, which is very happy. Well, just before Christmas time, around election time, we saw wonderful ads on the television telling us about how we're going to get this money kicked back to us. And all you got to do is make sure they didn't say you got to go and vote, but it sure did make people look good to know that you were going to get some money back. Now, what I'm really concerned about in this is that, I'm curious about the marketing and advertising campaign that's going to come around for Proposition HH. I cannot believe that it will not include some sort of mention of the fact that we're going to normalize. You'll still always get your Tabor money back. However, it'll be normalized now in a way such that everybody gets the same amount of money, which is not really fair. It may be equitable, but it is not fair, just so you know. So those that contribute more into the pot will not get more back. This will make sure that if you don't even give much in the pot, you'll still get the same amount as if somebody did put a bunch of money in the pot. So that's not really fair.
Minority
for
Leader.
those that are paying taxes. I would vote no on this bill.
Thank you very much. Members, our time has elapsed, and so the motion before us is House Bill 1311. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is passed. Majority Leader Duran.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
Rise and report. You have heard the motion. Seeing no objection, the committee will rise and report.
The House will come back to order. Mr. Shebel, please read the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Madam Speaker, your Committee of the Whole begs leave to report it is under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof and making the following recommendations thereon. House Bill 1311 passed on second reading, ordered and engrossed, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Representative Froelich. Members, you've heard the motion. There are amendments at the desk. Mr. Shebel, please read the Bottoms amendment to the Committee of the Whole report.
Representative Bottoms moved to amend the report of the Committee of the Whole to reverse the action taken by the committee in not adopting the following Wilson Amendment L21 to House Bill 1311 to show that said amendment passed, that House Bill 1311 is amended passed.
Representative Bottoms.
I would like to move the Bottoms Amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole. Have it properly displayed.
It is properly displayed. Please proceed.
Again, this is about the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, and we believe in the Taxpayer Bill of Rights here in Colorado. And when I say we, I mean the people have voted this in over and over and over to no changes, nothing to it. And they don't want you to mess with the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. That's been very clear by us, the people. And so I ask and I vote for this amendment.
Speaker Pro Tem DeGree Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I ask for a no vote on this amendment. This doesn't really pertain to the contents of the bill, which simply asks the question of how do we distribute the TABOR refunds for fiscal year 23 to make sure we're putting more money back in the pockets of lower income people. Please vote no on this amendment.
Representative DeGraff.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. A very old adage is any government that robs from Peter to pay Paul can count on the support of Peter. Paul, rather. Thank you. Yeah. I was just seeing if you were paying attention. That's a standard technique. I thought I had that down in my head, so I appreciate my colleague for correcting me. Now that we know everybody's awake. You're listening now because you know I'll make a mistake. It's late. We shouldn't be here. We should get some of those union rules of 8-hour days. So to the amendment. In speaking about the distribution of this, if you look at the categories, what you're talking about is the way it breaks it down is the 37% of the population and 27% of the population. That's about 64% of the population. They pay their fair share into the pot. And so from the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, what happens is that excess money is taken, and via the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, the Bill of Rights for the taxpayers, the people that paid the taxes and put the money in the pot. So the people that paid more in income taxes, more of the excess obviously belongs to them because it was collected on a straight percentage basis. So now what this body is doing, because it makes you feel good, is that you're going to take money, excess money, that belongs to a voter whose only crime is making more money and paying more taxes, and then you're going to take money from that person who, say, might have gotten an $800 rebate, and then they lose $500. And they give it to somebody who would have made a $100 rebate, and you give them $300. Now you could say, well, for that person who was going to get the $300,000 rebate, not the $300,000, it's way too late to be here. It's just way too late to be here. I would like to go home. The person that was going to get an $800 rebate now loses $500. And who made that decision? The voters. That's right, because you go to the 64% and you say, hey, would you like to take some money from somebody else? Of course, that's not how it's going to be presented. It's just, would you like to normalize this? But what you're asking the voters to do is take the money without authorization from the people who paid more in. So you're authorizing somebody to use legislation to extract money from somebody else. Normally that's called theft. This is called legislation. Very similar. You can't ask somebody to vote to take somebody else's money. Well, you can because we're about to, but it is not moral. It might be perversely legal, but it is not moral. Now, that person that was going to get the $800 rebate under the Taxpayer Bill of Rights because that taxpayer paid taxes might make the decision to just go give that money to somebody else, or most likely will take it and spend it and put it in the economy as they see fit, which will also help everybody. But no, the legislation wants to say, we would like to ask 64% of the population if they would like to take 200, 300, 500 from 36% of the population. And you notice how the numbers balance. It's about 64%, 36%. You need 51% to legalize this theft. It is theft. Because the persons that paid extra money into the pot and the government collected extra money from them and then it's being redistributed, not unlike that whole battery scheme and electric bike and all that where you take somebody else's money and you give it away to somebody else who didn't earn it. But now you're going to take that. How is it in the Constitution that we took an oath to that somebody can be deprived of their property and money is property? I think there's an Amendment 5 on that. There's an Amendment 14 on that. No person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of the law. This is not due process of the law. Now, you could go and ask all those people to give up the money, and they could say yes, but what if they vote no? Are we just going to normalize? Are we just going to normalize taking money? We're just going to normalize and say to the, and I have nothing against the people that paid less into it. That's not this at all. What we have is theft. That's what this is. You can call it a tax referendum. You can call it a putting this to the voters. But if 64% of the voters vote to take money from 36% of the other voters, that's immoral. That's theft. There's no other way around it.
Representative DeGraff, you know, I ask you to be more thoughtful about how you're describing this. I'm sure it can be interpreted that you're accusing folks of stealing here. So I'd ask you to reframe that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What we're talking about is legislating money out of one person's pocket and legislating it into another person's pocket. Now, whatever you want to call it, it is using the legislation, not due process of the law, to transfer money from one person to another. That's what this is. This amendment is trying to make it a little bit more equitable, to give some more detail. It is not moral to legislate money out of one pocket and put it in and legislate it into somebody else's, no matter how good that makes you feel or how many buzzwords you can use around it. It is not moral. I recommend an aye vote on this amendment. I recommend a no vote on this scheme.
Minority Leader Lynch.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm losing it. It's an honor to serve with you.
An honor to serve with you.
So I'm going to talk a little more to the amendment, which I think is crucial because, like I mentioned before, this bill came about today. So I think part of making this bill more complete, not to mention this works very nicely with another amendment coming up, is that this explains in the ledge deck how Tabor works, what Tabor is, Taxpayer Bill of Rights. So if this doesn't affect the bill at all, no impact at all on the bill, on its effectiveness and for what it does. This just simply explains the Taxpayer Bill of Rights so that people understand that when they are getting this normalized money back, that there's not confusion about where that money came from. It came from the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. And it has a nice line in the bottom there, which I think we should think about, which it says, Tabor refunds as soon as possible in order to support working families across the state by returning tax dollars to them. I like that. That talks about we're giving money back to the working families of this state, and I think we should get credit for it. We do that by explaining what's going on in the legislative declaration, excuse me, and it explains Tabor, and we hastily put this bill together today, and I think that it needs to have some more context behind it. So I would strongly, strongly urge a yes on this amendment that does nothing to impact the bill. Ledge deck, explanation, it's a good amendment, vote yes.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of the Bottoms Amendment to the Committee of the Whole report. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Ortiz votes no. Representative Snyder. Representative Luck. Please close the machine. With 20 aye, 45 no, and 0 excused, the Bottoms Amendment is lost. Mr. Schiebel, please read the Lynch Amendment to the Committee of the Whole report.
Representative Lynch moved to amend the report of the Committee of the Whole to reverse the action taken by the committee in not adopting the following Lynch Amendment, L19 to House Bill 1311, to show that said amendment passed, that House Bill 1311 is amended passed.
Minority Leader Lynch.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to move the Lynch Amendment to the Committee of the Whole.
It is properly displayed. Please proceed.
Okay, members, this is a real simple amendment. All it does is it doesn't, once again, doesn't mess with what the bill does at all. It just says, why do we need to wait for Proposition HH to affect regardless of what happens on SB 303? Regardless of what happens there, we're not making this contingent upon anything. And also, I wouldn't want there to be confusion with the voters that somehow they're being persuaded to vote for Proposition HH by having to vote for Proposition HH for that money that's going to come back to us through Tabor to be normalized. So I think it's, quite frankly, kind of a bad look if we give the perception here that we would do something to tip the scale of the voters, giving them encouragement to vote for HH, and their reward is this legislation, which once again just normalizes how we give back that refund. We can do that tonight. We can do that tonight with this amendment that'll simply say, when this bill is passed, we now have officially normalized, if you will, just made more equitable that payment that goes back to our citizens. We did this, I believe, last year through Senate Bill 238 because we really didn't have any other options. And so I voted for that we should go on ahead and give a flat number back to the citizens. that led to us getting some checks that I'm not sure got the credit that the previous amendment would have given to Tabor, the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. But tonight we can remove any doubt that we are in some way holding the citizens of this state at bay, or I hate to say at hostage, that sounds mean, but we're asking something for them for their vote on Proposition HH. I wouldn't want us to be accused of that, and we can avoid that simply by voting for this amendment.
Speaker Pro Tem Degree Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I ask for a no vote on this amendment. As I discussed during second reading, there's a reason that this is connected to the property tax measure that will be debated on this House floor tomorrow. Because when we knew that there was going to be a reimbursement to the local governments to help offset their property tax reductions, and that was going to be in part paid for by a reduction in the total Tabor refunds, it was an important question: whose Tabor refunds were that going to be? One thing that we know for sure is that homeowners are going to benefit far more from property tax reductions than renters are, and higher income people with larger homes are going to benefit more from property taxes than others. This mechanism in House Bill 1311 is a critical component to make sure that we are doing more for renters, that we are doing more for lower income people, and that we are trying to make a meaningful difference for everyone across Colorado who is struggling with the high cost of living right now. Please vote no on this amendment.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of the Lynch Amendment to the Committee of the Whole report. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Ortiz votes no. Please close the machine. With 21 aye, 44 no, and 0 excused, the Lynch Amendment is lost. There are no more amendments at the desk. The question before us is the adoption of the Committee of the Whole report. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 46 aye, 19 no, and 0 excused, the report of the Committee of the Whole is adopted. Madam Majority Leader. Oh, it's me. Members, we are now back to third reading of bills. Mr. Schiebel. Thank you. Please read the title to Senate Bill 54.
Senate Bill 54 by Senator Danielson, also Representatives Garcia and Velasco, concerning the duties of the Office of Liaison for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Relatives and in connection therewith, making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 54 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 54 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Bacon, Bachenfeld, Catlin, Hartsook, Story and Winter. Please close the machine. With 61 aye, 3 no, 1 excused, Senate Bill 54 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 76.
Senate Bill 76 by Senators Coleman and Marchman, also Representatives McLaughlin and Vigil, concerning the continuation of the Colorado Youth Advisory Council and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 76 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 76 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Catlin. Please close the machine. With 51 aye, 13 no, and 1 excuse, Senate Bill 76 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title of Senate Bill 285.
Senate Bill 285 by Senators Priola and Hansen, also Representatives McCormick and Dixon, concerning energy and carbon management regulation in Colorado and in connection therewith, changing the name of the Oil and Gas Conservation Commission to the Energy and Carbon Management Commission, broadening the Commission's regulatory authority to include the regulation of certain geothermal resource operations and intrastate underground natural gas storage facilities, and making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 285 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us. Oh, Representative DeGraff.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Oh, so much about this. We're spending so much money chasing dragons that don't exist. Geothermal is a great idea. Carbon management, literally, it is air. Carbon dioxide is not a pollutant. You can manage carbon dioxide all you want. You can pump as much into the ground as you want at the cost of hundreds of billions of dollars in a year. You can drive up the cost of everything that everybody consumes, moves, builds, double it, triple it. You know what you're going to accomplish? According to actual science and not the narrative that's based on an ethereal, emotive, imaginary threat, you will accomplish absolutely nothing. You will put people out of business. You will put people out of work. You will put people out of their homes. But for the climate, you will achieve absolutely nothing. And that's not fringe science. That's like the actual science. That's the actual IPCC science that on occasion somebody will throw back at me and say, what about the IPCC? Well, the IPCC's models in the documents that I sent you, they estimate that if we go to net zero tomorrow after spending trillions of dollars, which come out of taxpayers' pockets, which we can just shuffle around and make sure we just choose who we hurt, we can spend trillions and trillions of dollars to achieve absolutely nothing. I suppose we'll feel good, or you'll feel good, and maybe it'll allay some fear, but we know from science that the oceans contain at least 50 times more carbon dioxide than the air, and as soon as you pump that air, you pump carbon dioxide out of the air, The oceans are going to equalize that out of partial pressures, and the carbon dioxide is just going to come right back and fill up the air. The projections that we heard in committee were to spend about $100 billion a year to pull 1 gigaton of, at least $100 billion a year, if not $700 or $800 billion a year, to pull 1 gigaton of carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. 1 gigaton out of 3,120 gigatons. 1 gigaton of 3,120 gigatons is 1/3,000th. So for the cost of $100 billion, you can make 1/3,000th of a difference. And at most, all of the carbon dioxide contributes maybe 3% to the heat energy, which is the basis of climate. 3%, 1/30,000th of 3%. Everybody's got a calculator on their phone. Figure out how much that is. I always enjoy these little talks when everybody just avoids eye contact. I do enjoy that. I see you. Nobody wants to do the math. Nobody wants to challenge it. Nobody wants to find the scientists that agree with you. I've tried to find them. I've asked you to find them. What you're basing energy policy on that hurts people to an incredible degree is irrational fear. I'm trying to help you. You are making decisions that hurt your constituents. The IPCC, 1/3 of 1 degree Fahrenheit if we spend trillions of dollars to go net zero tomorrow. One-third of 1 degree. Hundreds of billions of dollars. Now we know that if God didn't want us to collect taxes, I guess he wouldn't have made taxpayers. But there is the mentality that maybe people's lives would be better if we let them keep some money into their pockets instead of pumping hundreds of billions of dollars of it into the ground for no effect whatsoever. Now, if you want to know why the climate is changing, 1 watt per square meter. Solar increase. Looks like it's probably going to go down. 21,000 barrels of energy equivalent. 2 Hiroshima events per second of the 31,540,000 seconds in a year. That's a lot of Hiroshima events. That's a lot of barrels of oil of energy. That started increasing strangely at the Industrial Revolution, just prior to the Industrial Revolution.
Representative DeGraff, I appreciate your analysis of climate. Just bring it back to the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the bill, we are going to spend billions of dollars eventually. We are going to drive up the costs for this farce of carbon management. Managing air. You're going to manage air. That's what this bill should say. Air management. And it's not even much of the air. It's 0.04% of the atmosphere. That is changed by 0.1%. You are going to manage air. 1 part in 10,000. It is an absolute travesty that we are going to waste our taxpayer dollars on this, and we are going to drive people into bankruptcy. We're going to drive them into homelessness, all for the virtue preening of climate justice, equity, whatever you want to call it. It is not just, it is not equitable, it kills people. These bills are just absolute travesties and a complete disregard for science. I recommend a no vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the question... Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 285, on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Buckenfeld, Mabry, Parenti, Wilford, Winter. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Please close the machine. With 45 aye, 20 no, 0 excused, Senate Bill 285 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 14.
Senate Bill 14 by Senator Moreno, also Representative Lindsay, concerning establishing the Disordered Eating Prevention Program in the Department of Public Health and Environment and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 14 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 14 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Buckenfeld. Please close the machine. With 47 aye, 18 no, 0 excused, Senate Bill 14 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 199.
Senate Bill 199 by Senators Henriksen and Van Winkle, also Representatives Lindstedt and Weinberg, concerning procedures for the issuance of marijuana licenses and in connection therewith, clarifying that the state licensing authority may refund licensing fees when the application is denied and allowing applicants the opportunity to renew a state license while local jurisdiction approval is pending.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 199 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 199 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representatives Buckenfeld, DeGraff, Luck, Martinez, Winter. Please close the machine. With 54 aye, 11 no, and 0 excused, Senate Bill 199 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 259.
Senate Bill 259 by Senators Robertson Baisley, also Representatives Weinberg and Snyder, concerning the extension of credit for participation in limited gaming.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 259 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 259 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Ortiz votes no. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representatives DeGraff, Epps, Hartsook, Lynch. Please close the machine. With 31 aye, 34 no, and 0 excused, Senate Bill 259 is lost. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 34.
Senate Bill 34 by Senators Fields and Pelton B., also Representatives Evans and McLaughlin, concerning the definition of serious bodily injury in Section 18-1-901 Colorado Revised Statutes.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 34 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 34 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Joseph is excused. Please close the machine. With 47 ayes, 17 no, and 1 excused, Senate Bill 34 is adopted. Co-sponsors.
Brett Morrow, you are unmuted.
Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 97.
Senate Bill 97 by Senators Zenzinger and Gardner, also Representatives Byrd and Soper, concerning the adoption of the 2023 recommendations of the Colorado Commission on Criminal and Juvenile Justice regarding motor vehicle offenses committed by a person who is not the owner of the motor vehicle and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 97 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 97 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representatives Doherty and DeGraff. Please close the machine. With 48 ayes, 16 no, and 1 excuse, Senate Bill 97 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 269.
Senate Bill 269 by Senators Buckner and Rich, also Representatives Lukens and Bradfield, concerning creating a bonus payment program to incentivize Colorado preschool providers to participate in the Colorado Universal Preschool Program and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 269 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 269 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Holtorf. Please close the machine. With 50 aye, 14 no, and 1 excuse, Senate Bill 269 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 203.
Senate Bill 203 by Senator Fields, also Representatives Soper and Marshall, concerning the authority of the Office of the Inspector General in the Department of Corrections to apprehend fugitives.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 203 on third reading, final passage.
Representative Soper.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and it's an honor to serve with you.
And an honor to serve with you.
Members, we come down here asking for permission to offer a third reading amendment.
Please proceed.
Thank you, members. So one thing that had come up that took us a little while to be able to get through stakeholding in the department and check with our Senate sponsors was the ability to report back to the General Assembly how many times the Inspector General's office had been used to be able to apprehend a fugitive, and that's what our amendment does, is it at least reports back to us to know what happened.
Representative Marshall.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So this was dropped on us on second readings at the last second, but was actually a very good idea. It was just a little overbroad and brought the last second, so we do ask for permission to try and add it now. Thanks.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion before us is permission to bring a third reading amendment to Senate Bill 203. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes.
It's a little secret. What? You're a nerd? Oh, please.
Representatives Catlin and Winter. Please close the machine. With 62 aye, 2 no, and 1 excused, permission to bring a third reading amendment is adopted. Representative Soper.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move Amendment L002 and ask that it be properly displayed.
It is properly displayed. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So, again, we don't want to waste time. This was just a very good amendment for some administrative feedback so we can make sure what the IG is being used for, because we do want to track the manpower, because we don't want the IG to be sucked up to only be doing these kind of duties. And if we do know that they're doing those duties, we need to, and it's an excessive amount, we need to make sure we're putting resources where we need them. So this feedback, again, was initially a little overbroad on the administrative burden, but cut back, and now is an excellent thing to have so we can perform our duties well.
Seeing Seeing no further discussion, the motion before us is the adoption of L002 to Senate Bill 203. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Joseph. Please close the machine. With 65 ayes, 0 noes, 0 excused, the amendment is adopted. Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move for the repassage of Senate Bill 203 as amended.
The motion before us is to pass Senate Bill 203 as amended. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representatives Herod, Holtorf, and Winter. Please close the machine. With 54 aye, 11 no, and 0 excused, Senate Bill 203 is adopted. Co-sponsors, as amended. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 257.
Senate Bill 257 by Senators Bridges and Gardner, also Representatives Tatone and Bockenfeld, concerning funding for auto theft prevention programs and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 257 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 257 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representatives Holtorf, Weinberg, Winter. Please close the machine. With 55 aye, 10 no, and 0 excused, Senate Bill 257 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 277.
Senate Bill 277 by Senators Buckner and Van Winkle, also Representatives Valdez and Soper, concerning measures to provide resources to increase public safety and in connection therewith extending related existing appropriations.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 277 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 277 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representatives Winter. Please close the machine. With 48 ayes, 17 no, and 0 excused, Senate Bill 277 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title of Senate Bill 281.
Senate Bill 281 by Senator Zenzinger, also Representative McLaughlin, concerning a required notice of limited transferability of college credits from a non-regionally accredited higher education institution.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 281 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 281 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representatives Bradfield, Doherty, Weinberg. Please close the machine. With 64 aye, 1 no, and 0 excused, Senate Bill 281 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 288.
Senate Bill 288 by Senators Fields and Buckner, also Representatives English and Joseph, concerning measures to determine coverage for dual services and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 288 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 288 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Martinez. Please close the machine. With 50 aye, 15 no, and 0 excused, Senate Bill 288 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 293.
Senate Bill 293 by Senators Coleman and Fields, also Representatives Harrod and Epps, concerning compensation of a student athlete for use of the student athlete's name, image, or likeness.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 293 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 293 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representatives, please close the machine. With 54 aye, 11 no, and 0 excused, Senate Bill 293 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 278.
Senate Bill 278 by Senators Simpson and Mullica, also Representatives Lindsay and Story, concerning a modification to the requirement that a portion of every capital construction appropriation be allocated for the acquisition of works of art.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 278 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 278 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Please close the machine. With 61 aye, 4 no, and 0 excused, Senate Bill 278 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 289.
Senate Bill 289 by Senators Bridges and Zenzinger, also Representatives Byrd and Sirota, concerning seeking an amendment to the Medicaid state plan to implement the Community First Choice optional benefit.
Members, we are still on third readings. I'll ask you to keep your voices down. Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 289 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 289 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes.
It's not done.
Catlin, Judah, Lynch, Mabry. Please close the machine. With 55 aye, 10 no, and 0 excused, Senate Bill 289 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 294.
Senate Bill 294 by Senators Zenzinger and Kirkmeyer, also Representatives Byrd and Bockenfeld, concerning increases in the amount of transfers from the General Fund to the Capital Construction Fund to be made on July 1st, 2023.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 294 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 294 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Winter. Please close the machine. With 60 aye, 5 no, 0 excused, Senate Bill 294 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 173.
Senate Bill 173 by Senators Fields and Liston, also Representatives Bradley and Joseph, concerning recommendations of the Colorado Child Support Commission.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 173 on third reading, final passage.
Members, I'll ask you to keep your voices down. The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 173 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Madam Majority Leader. Please close the machine. With 65 ayes, 0 noes, 0 excused, Senate Bill 173 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 88.
Senate Bill 88 by Senators Pelton B. and Fields, also Representatives Winter T. and Martinez, concerning an offender's eligibility for release from confinement.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 88 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 88 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Please close the machine. With 65 ayes, 0 noes, 0 excused, Senate Bill 88 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 66.
Senate Bill 66 by Senators Simpson and Hansen, also Representatives Byrd and Lynch, concerning changes to the Advanced Industry Acceleration Programs.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 66 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 66 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Catlin Doherty Winter. Please close the machine. With 58 ayes, 7 no, and 0 excused, Senate Bill 66 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 179.
Senate Bill 179 by Senators Moreno and Will, also Representatives Hartsook and Doherty, concerning insurance carrier requirements for health coverage plans and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 179 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 179 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative DeGraff, how about $15? Mr. Shebel, please close the machine. With 60 aye, 5 no, 0 excused, Senate Bill 179 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 209.
Senate Bill 209 by Senators Janal and Rich, also Representatives Taggart and Ricks, concerning removal of the date restriction in the definition of eligible borrower used to determine a business's eligibility for a small business recovery loan under the Clymer Act.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 209 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 209 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 63 aye, 2 no, and 0 excused, Senate Bill 209 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 270.
Senate Bill 270 by Senators Robertson Simpson, also Representatives McCormick and Catlin, concerning activities that restore the environmental health of natural stream systems without administration.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 270 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 270 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Please close the machine. With 65 ayes, 0 no, 0 excused, Senate Bill 270 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 65.
Senate Bill 65 by Senators Lundin and Bridges, also Representatives Byrd and Wilson, concerning changes to the Career Development Success Program and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 65 on third reading and final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 65 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representatives Catlin, Frizzell, Holtorf, Winter. Please close the machine. With 60 aye, 5 no, and 0 excuse, Senate Bill 65 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 292.
Senate Bill 292 by Senators Hansen and Fenberg, also Representatives Duran and Byrd, concerning labor requirements for energy sector construction and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 292 on third reading and final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 292 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Please close the machine. With 46 aye, 19 no, and 0 excuse, Senate Bill 292 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 275.
Senate Bill 275 by Senators Janal and Will, also Representatives Duran and Lynch, concerning managing wild horses and in connection therewith authorizing the creation of an entity to support management of wild horse herds in Colorado, seeking long-term solutions for horses removed from the wild range and making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 275 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 275 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Froelich, Hartsook, Vigil. Please close the machine. With 58 aye, 7 no, and 0 excuse, Senate Bill 275 is adopted. Co-sponsors.
Good job there, Lynch.
It is most certainly that time of session when everyone's a bit restless. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 186.
Senate Bill 186 by Senators Pelton R. and Winter F., also Representative Winter and Wilford, concerning methane seepage in the Raton Basin of Colorado and in connection therewith, requiring the Colorado Oil and Gas Conservation Commission to complete a study and making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader,
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 186 on third reading, final passage.
the motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 186 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 65 ayes, 0 no, 0 excused, Senate Bill 186 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to lay over House Bill 1159 until tomorrow.
House Bill 1159 will be laid over until tomorrow. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 299.
Senate Bill 299 by Senator Cutter, also Representative Citone Bradley, concerning the requirement to acquire epinephrine auto-injectors for placement at institutions of higher education.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 299 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 299 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Catlin Epps Frizzell. Please close the machine. With 57 aye, 8 no, 0 excused, Senate Bill 299 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 297.
Senate Bill 297 by Senators Zenzinger and Pelton R., also Representatives McLaughlin and Catlin, concerning the expansion of the America 250
Members,
Colorado
please
150
keep your
Commission,
voices down.
and in connection therewith making appropriation.
Sorry, Mr. Shebel. Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 297 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 297 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Rep. Snyder. Please close the machine. With 58 ayes, 7 no, 0 excused, Senate Bill 297 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 248.
Senate Bill 248 by Senators Rodriguez and Liston, also Representatives Mabry and Weinberg, concerning consumer protection in certain credit transactions.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 248 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 248 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Hartsook and Holtorf. Please close the machine. With 55 aye, 10 no, 0 excused, Senate Bill 248 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 59.
Senate Bill 59 by Senators Baisley and Roberts, also Representatives Catlin and McLaughlin, concerning providing funding to local governments to support access to state-owned outdoor recreational areas and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 59 on third reading and final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 59 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Hartsook Joseph. Please close the machine. With 60 aye, 5 no, 0 excused, Senate Bill 59 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 3.
Senate Bill 3 by Senators Buckner and Gardner, also Representatives Weissman and Wilson, concerning a Colorado Department of Education partnership with a nonprofit entity to create a program for adult education and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 3 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 3 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Martinez and Winter. Please close the machine. With 55 aye, 10 no, 0 excused, Senate Bill 3 is adopted. Co-sponsors. please. Close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 295.
Senate Bill 295 by Senators Roberts and Will, also Representatives McCluskey and Catlin, concerning the creation of the Colorado River Drought Task Force and in connection therewith, making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 295 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 295 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Please close the machine. With 63 aye, 2 no, 0 excuse, Senate Bill 295 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 291.
Senate Bill 291 by Senators Venberg and Cutter, also Representatives Degree, Kennedy, and Martinez, concerning the Public Utilities Commission's regulation of energy utilities and in connection therewith, making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 291 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 291 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Please close the machine. With 46 aye, 19 no, and 0 excuse, Senate Bill 291 is adopted. Co-sponsors.
It's a weird thing.
Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 263.
Senate Bill 263 by Senator Priola, also Representatives Velasco and Epps, concerning a loan from the general fund to the Natural Disaster Mitigation Enterprise to defray expenses incurred before the receipt of fee revenue or revenue bond proceeds.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 263 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 263 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Please close the machine. With 47 aye, 18 no, and 0 excused, Senate Bill 263 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 148.
Senate Bill 148 by Senator Cutter, also Representative Lindsay, concerning property used to illegally manufacture drugs and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 148 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 148 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Please close the machine. With 48 ayes, 17 no, and 0 excused, Senate Bill 148 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Thank you, members. That concludes third reading. Representative Holtorf.
Okay. You're okay. Madam Speaker, due to my cantankerous mood and frustration with things that are happening in the waning days of session, I believe I may have voted in error on a bill that went before this chamber on third reading. For that reason, in an effort to try to lift my mood and change it to a better place, I would like to move to reconsider Senate Bill 23-259 and ask that request of the body.
Members, we will stand in a brief recess. The House will come back to order. Representative Holtorf, I'll ask you to restate your motion. Oh. Mr. Shebel, please read the title of Senate Bill 259.
Senate Bill 259 by Senators Roberts and Baisley, also Representatives Weinberg and Snyder, concerning the extension of credit for participation in limited gaming.
Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As I stated earlier, I move to reconsider the last action to Senate Bill 23-259, which was third reading and final passage, and ask for a favorable vote, as they may have voted in error.
The motion before us is reconsideration of Senate Bill 259. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Ortiz votes no. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Please close the machine. With 33 aye, 32 no, and 0 excused, the motion for reconsideration passes. Representative Snyder.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I know this is a little unusual, but I move for the passage of Senate Bill 23-259. I forget the rest of what you say. On third reading and final passage.
Representative Epps. Representative Epps? Representative Marshall.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The prior colleague, our colleague, made a very passionate speech against this before. This is why people lose trust in our government.
Representative Marshall. Representative Epps? Seeing no further discussion, the motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 259 on third reading final passage. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Ortiz votes no. Representative Morrow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Morrow votes yes. Please close the machine. With 33 aye, 32 no, and 0 excused, Senate Bill 259 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Members, that concludes third readings. Mr. Shebel, we have some business to attend to. Message from the Senate.
Madam Speaker, the Senate has adopted the first report of the First Conference Committee on Senate Bill 60 as printed in Senate Journal, May 6, 2023, and repassed the bill as amended. The Senate has adopted the first report of the First Conference Committee on Senate Bill 155 as printed in Senate Journal, May 6, 2023, and repassed the bill as amended. The Senate has adopted the first report of the First Conference Committee on House Bill 1105 as printed in Senate Journal, May 6, 2023, and repassed the bill as amended. The bill is returned herewith. The Senate voted to recede from its position on House Bill 1210 and requested the Conference Committee be dissolved. The Senate concurred with House amendments and repassed the bill as amended. The Senate returns the bill herewith.
Mr. Shebel, I can't believe I just did that to you. Members, please forgive me. I made him read that instead of just saying printed in the journal. $20, yes, big fine. But, oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Shebel. Representative McCormick. Oh.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I am back again to talk about Conference Committee on Senate Bill 16. We're going to have our second Conference Committee, which is just a repeat of the first Conference Committee, tomorrow morning at 8:50 a.m. in HCR 109. That's Sunday, May 7th, 8:50 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional announcements? Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to lay over the balance of the calendar until tomorrow.
The balance of the calendar will be laid over until tomorrow. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the House stand in adjournment until 9 a.m. on Sunday, May 7th.
The House is in adjournment until Sunday, May 7th at 9 a.m.